In with some breaking news out of Gaza. There have been more Israeli airstrikes, this time killing 2 Palestinians in a car. It comes just hours after funerals were held for 3 senior Islamic Jihad commanders who were killed in overnight Israeli attacks. 10 others were also killed, including children. Let's go live to Gaza. We're going to speak to Youmna El-Sayed. Youmna, what more do we know about these latest airstrikes?
Yes, Rob. So the latest airstrike was carried just about half an hour ago, even less, on a car that had 2 people. The car was directly targeted with a drone missile where it was completely burned. And this brings the death toll to 15 people, including the assassination of the 3 Islamic Jihad commanders and 20 others who have been heavily and critically injured, according to the Ministry of Health in Gaza. More airstrikes, meanwhile, have been taking place, and artillery shells have been taking place in Khan Yunis, that's in the southern part of the Strip, in the same part where the last direct assassination of that car or targeting of that car took place.
Youmna, tell us a little bit about the 3 leaders of Islamic Jihad that were killed in the earlier strikes.
Yes, so the 3 leaders are senior commanders in Islamic Jihad. These also, it's very worth noting to say that these leaders were supposed to be traveling with another delegation from the Palestinian Islamic Jihad to Cairo this morning to participate in a security meeting. The 3 leaders were senior commanders in Islamic Jihad. Their specific information and names are Khalil al-Bahtani, who is a member of the Military Council of Al-Quds Brigades, that's the military wing of Islamic Jihad, and also Tariq Izzuddin. He's one of the leaders of the military action of Al-Quds Brigades in the West Bank. Tariq Izzuddin was also one of those prisoners who was freed in the Shalit deal, and he was brought here to Gaza, where he is originally from Nablus. While the 3rd one is Jihad al-Ghanim. He is the secretary of the military council in Al-Quds Brigades. It's also worth noting that Khalil al-Bahtani was assigned after the assassination of the previous leader in August 2022 in the Israeli attack on Islamic Jihad commanders as well here in the Gaza Strip.
It's Youmna El-Sayed talking to us from Gaza. All of that is raising tensions at the Gaza-Israel border, and William Marks is in Ashkelon in Israel for us. Islamic Jihad has been promising a response to what has been happening. People there waiting to see what that reaction is going to be, William.
Yeah, that's right. And of course, Israeli authorities, since the early hours of this morning, have been telling residents in this region here, we're about 4 miles from the northern part of Gaza here, to make sure they stay close to rocket shelters. And indeed, some local authorities here have said that over the course of the last few hours, they've been encouraging residents to leave. Dozens of families have already made the journey further north and east from here, further away from the potential rocket fire that Israeli authorities clearly are expecting. We've heard from Yoav Gallant, the defense minister, speaking to local politicians and leaders here over the course of today, warning that there could be conflict for several days. He's concerned, he said, that there could be a prolonged campaign with an extended range of fire. That would mean, of course, rockets traveling much further into Israel than even where we're standing here. Israeli media also quoting one senior Israeli official as saying that everything depends now on how Hamas will act. Its engagement or lack of engagement in firing rockets as a response will determine the level of escalation. And Tor Wennesland, very important to note here, the special representative for the United Nations here when it comes to the Middle East peace process, asking for, quote, maximum restraint and really hoping, they said, for an avoidance of that further escalation.
Willem, thanks very much indeed. That's Willem Marks talking to us from Ashkelon in Israel on the border with Gaza. Well, Mohammed Jamjoom's in West Jerusalem for us. What is Israel saying about all of this, Mohammed?
So, Rob, let me first bring you up to date on what we've just heard from the Israeli army concerning that latest airstrike that just happened in the last 15 minutes or so. There was a statement from the Israeli army in which they said a short while ago, an IDF aircraft struck a terrorist squad carrying anti-tank guided missiles in the city of Khan Yunis in the southern Gaza Strip. Details to follow. So not a lot right now, but we are expecting to hear more in the hours to come. And one of the reasons we're expecting to hear more is because you've had a situational assessment that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had been in attendance at for the last 7 or 8 hours. Now you have a meeting going on that includes the Prime Minister as well as his security and defense cabinet. And we are expecting also that there will be a press conference given jointly by the Israeli Prime Minister as well as the Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, and that should happen around 8 p.m. local time. We expect that in that presser, we will be hearing the Prime Minister congratulating the army on carrying out this mission, but also we expect that he will most likely be addressing Hamas directly, because right now there's a lot of concern about if this will lead to wider escalation. Obviously, as you heard Willem speak about just a few moments ago, right now there's concern that there will be rocket launches towards southern Israel. There are preparations being made. One of the questions being asked is how much of an escalation might there be? And the Israeli government is contending with the question of, is this going to be an escalation that's only going to be seen by Islamic Jihad, which would mean that perhaps the government here would only contend with perhaps hundreds of missiles being launched from Gaza, or will it include Hamas? And if that were to be the case, that's a much wider escalation. That could mean that there would be thousands of rockets being launched from Gaza toward Israel in the hours or days to come. So it's a very tenuous situation here right now. We're waiting to hear directly from the Prime Minister, from the Defense Minister, and then we'll get more details about what precisely Israel is expecting and what might transpire in the days to come.
That's Mohammed Jamjoom in West Jerusalem. Mohammed, thank you very much indeed. We're going to bring in Osama Hamdan. He's a senior spokesman for Hamas. He's joining us from Beirut on the phone. Good to have you with us on Al Jazeera. If there is a response to this from Gaza or indeed anywhere else, what role would Hamas play in that?
Well, it's clear that Netanyahu is taking the situation to a great escalation. He started the attack on Gaza, assassinating senior members in Saraya al-Quds and Islamic Jihad. Everyone knows that Netanyahu is facing a serious internal troubles with the opposition, and he's using the model of Hitler and the Nazism. He wants to create problems with the Palestinians in order to overcome his internal problems. So initially, we believe that the one who will be responsible for what may happen is Netanyahu and his government. Our response as Palestinians is as usual. We have to defend our people. We have to defend ourselves. We have to protect the civilians who were under the Israeli strikes last night and today. Everyone knows that there were women, children among the people who were killed by the Israeli strikes yesterday. So the position of Hamas, that we are part of our people and we are in charge and responsible to protect our people and our community. And the Israelis have to understand they have to look for the consequences for what may they do against the Palestinians, especially in Gaza and Al-Quds.
For those of us outside who are perhaps not clear about the power dynamic that exists within Gaza between Hamas and Islamic Jihad, is it likely that if there is to be a response, given that there were 3 Islamic Jihad leaders killed in these airstrikes, is Hamas likely to leave the response to Islamic Jihad, or will Hamas have a role to play in that response?
Regardless to who may play what or do what, the main idea that the Palestinians will not be watching their people being killed, their women and children being killed. The Palestinians will not accept, the Palestinians in Gaza, if they are Hamas or Islamic Jihad, will not accept what Netanyahu is doing, and they will say, let it go. What will happen, how it will be arranged, it will be done among the Palestinians themselves. And I think it's good to wait and see what will happen and who will react.
There have been increasing calls in the last few hours for restraint, and the Israelis themselves have said that whether or not this situation escalates is dependent entirely on how Islamic Jihad and perhaps Hamas respond to this. How likely is it that Hamas will listen to those calls for restraint?
Well, it's an ironic that they attack, they kill, they destroy, and then they will say, well, we will wait for the response and the consequences will depend on what will happen next. They have to understand their action will be received by a reaction. What they will do has its own consequences. And the one who is supposed to take the responsibility for that is the Israeli government, and they will take the responsibility. And I believe they have to understand this lesson. The time of being attacked without any response is not available now. There will be a reaction for their attack, and everyone will know soon that the Palestinian resistance will not keep watching just by counting the rockets and counting the bombs of the Israelis falling on the Palestinians, women, children in Gaza Strip.
Osama Hamdan, senior spokesman for Hamas, thank you very much indeed for being with us.